What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and today I want to talk a little bit about crouch spam in Rainbow Six Siege and some experiments I've been conducting on this topic. After drop-shotting was nerfed, it was only a matter of time before a new gunfight meta emerged, and the next best thing to flopping around the map like a pro soccer player was of course crouching up and down like a whack-a-mole doll on steroids. Crouch spamming is in the game and it works, so it's understandable that we see this tactic more and more, but is there actually a problem with it? Does it just make you harder to hit, or will it go beyond that and also break your hitbox? Let's go and find out. Now, let me get a few fundamentals out of the way first. Movement speed in Rainbow Six varies by armor class, but this only goes for the speed at which you move around the map. Crouching, proning, and leaning speed is exactly the same for all three armor classes, and also of course the same goes for shield carriers. So that means that tactics like crouch spamming can be used by all operators equally. You can crouch spam, and even you can crouch spam. Hooray! Another fundamental fact that makes crouch spamming viable is how little it affects the first-person perspective. Yes, the camera perspective changes when we crouch, prone, or lean in Rainbow Six, but from the first-person perspective, the change is quite subtle, and with the exception of going prone, you can stay perfectly aimed down sight during all of these maneuvers. The third-person character model, on the other hand, can move around quite significantly during these same transitions. Look at that, they even switch around to a left-handed grip on their guns when leaning left. And when crouching, the operator's head not only moves up and down, but also quite a bit from side to side. This discrepancy between how movement affects the first-person and third-person perspective is at least part of the reason that makes changing stances so effective in gunfights. Even without taking hitbox problems into consideration, you can already make yourself a much harder target to hit, basically without incurring any penalty at all in terms of your ability to aim and hit your own targets. And can we at this stage just quickly admire how amazing the animation is for leaning left and right while crouched? This is literally some kind of magic trick. How is he doing that? Invisible strings? Some kind of support construction worn underneath the trousers? Whatever the case, this is almost as good as raptor legs, and I do hope that it will stay in the game. In fact, I'm going to make a prediction that this could well be the hottest new gunfight tactic in 2019. Imagine backing around a corner like this. Any opponent who is attacked in this way will almost certainly die laughing before being able to fire a single shot. But I digress. Crouch spamming is the issue, and now that we have confirmed that everyone can crouch spam equally well, it's important to try to find out if this tactic is just annoying and makes you harder to hit, or if it actually messes with your hitbox in some way, because that would be a truly unfair advantage that needs to be removed from the game ASAP. And let's be clear, there used to be a bug that made you invincible while crouch spamming. Earlier on in the year, the Operation Chimera patch notes specifically mentioned that this had been fixed. The question is this still a thing? And beyond that, there are a couple of other specific myths around crouch spamming that I want to test. One is that the hitbox completely desyncs from the character model, i.e. that as soon as you hit crouch, the hitbox switches to the crouch position while the visual model still needs to move down. The other myth is that during the crouch animation, the character's arms are more likely to block headshots. One way I thought of attempting to measure the hitbox as accurately as possible was to aim at a teammate and watch for the hipfire reticle to change color. As you can see here, I'm sorry, can you not do that while we're recording here? Thank you. As you can see here, whenever my reticle crosses over the hitbox of Ash, it turns green, although clothing items, including the top of the hat, are not part of the hitbox. Back in the early days of Siege, clothing used to be part of the hitbox, which was especially annoying when you were playing as one of the German operators with their big old ear defender helmets. But that's no longer a thing, thank goodness. Now, if we get Ash to crouch up and down a little bit, the first thing that becomes apparent is how much the target's head moves left and right during this motion. I had to adjust my aim to the right several times before I could reliably catch the top of the head as it was coming up. But once this adjustment is made and we can examine the footage frame by frame, we can see that the reticle pretty consistently changes color on the exact frame that Ash crosses over it while moving up or down. There were a couple of cases where I would normally expect a hit, but the color did not change, like here when aiming at her shoulder, or here when quite clearly aiming at the top of her head. Now, this could be explained with the clothing not being included in the hitbox, or maybe there is a small amount of desync. In fact, here, this to me should not be a headshot, but it still is, and that proves that there is a bit of a problem with the hitbox and character model while going through the crouch animation. Now, is this because the hitbox moves differently compared to the model, or is this maybe tied to lag because of playing online? Well, I also conducted this exact test in a local custom game where both players had a listed ping of 1 millisecond, and even here the phenomenon was present. This should not be a headshot, but it still is, and this is in a LAN environment. So wait, that's it confirmed. Crouch spam does break the hitbox after all. Well, yes, it does appear that the hitbox moves slightly differently to the player model by a centimeter here or there, but let's be real here. Even at very close ranges, we're really talking about a few pixels. The rumor was that the hitbox insta-switches when crouching while the third-person model goes through an animation, and that is definitely not the case, and for me personally, the minor deviations of the hitbox while crouching are really not enough to have any consistent gameplay impact, and because of that, my conclusion would be that crouch spamming does not affect the hitboxes. Certainly not in any meaningful way. Of course, the other concern that I have seen people mention is that crouching makes it more likely that your opponent's arms will block headshots. But as we've been able to observe from all of the footage so far, there is really nothing in the animation that moves the arms in front of the face at any time. Could there be certain angles where arms block headshots? Sure, absolutely, but I don't think that this is tied to crouch spamming in any way. As one final confirmation, I also tried to test the hitboxes with actual shots fired, but as you can imagine, timing shots perfectly to land a few pixels away from a target during a pretty speedy animation was a minor nightmare to deal with. I ran lots and lots of trials, and most of the time I ended up either missing by a mile or getting an unintentional headshot. Still, I did manage to get a couple of decently close shots, and they pretty much confirmed what the reticle color test already told us. The hitboxes remain pretty damn accurate. Now, full disclosure, every participant in my experiments was on a pretty good internet connection, and all of us had pings between 9 and 16 milliseconds at all times throughout these tests. So my conclusions do not take any network issues into account that you or your opponents may be experiencing in any given game. But at the end of the day, even if you're playing against someone with a high ping and their character model in your instance of the game is lagging quite a bit behind where they are in their own game, when it comes to landing shots, what counts first and foremost is what you are shooting at. Yes, there will be peeker's advantage. Yes, they might kill you behind cover and you them. But what counts most in terms of landing your shots is what the server shows you in terms of target positioning, and if you land your shots in your instance of the game, the hits are still counted. So after all that, what are my thoughts on crouch spamming? The speed with which Rainbow Six Siege operators can crouch spam is absolutely superhuman, there's no doubt about that. And in a game that is based on real life, I feel that impossible physical movements should be kept to a minimum. But when it comes to the question of crouch spamming giving players an unfair advantage, my conclusion would be that this is not the case. I tested the effect on hitboxes to the best of my ability, and as far as I can tell, there is very little unfair impact. Your hitbox is not broken when you crouch, you just literally become a harder target to hit. Is it annoying? Yes. Unnatural? Yes. Unfair? Not as far as I can see. I understand that there is a balance to be struck between making a fast-paced, fun game and making the game realistic, and I do feel that movement needs to feel good and be fun. But irrespective of hitboxes breaking or not, being able to crouch repeatedly at high speed with pretty much no penalty to your ability to aim is a problem in my humblest of opinions. It's completely unnatural and silly, and for that reason I believe crouching needs to be nerfed in some way. Ubisoft could make it harder to aim while changing stances, or they could change the speed at which the animation takes place. Changing stance could even temporarily affect the speed at which you can move forward or sideways. This would be completely realistic, and when someone starts crouch spamming around a corner, slowing down their strafing speed would actually put them at a disadvantage. But those are just a couple of ideas off the top of my head and not really the point of this video. The objective was to test whether crouch spam gives you an unfair advantage, and as far as I can see, that is not the case. But what are your thoughts on crouch spam? Do you want it to stay, or do you want it nerfed? Let me know in the comments section below, and while you're down there, go ahead and leave a like if, you liked the video. And with that, as always, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.